I'm so excited to be here, everyone. My name is Ashley Safransky, and I head up marketing here at UConnect. And I'm super pumped for today's webinar, a digital first approach to DE&I, scaling impact through curated communities. And we're so excited and honored to have our friend Briana from the University of Washington. She's just, on the other side of the state. I'm here based in Washington, and so is she, so that's super fun. But this is a tremendously important topic, and the University of Washington has just been leaders in, providing access, equitable access and increasing engagement to career resources and tools and information all across the board. But I think their work on this topic has been just especially innovative, and I'm just so excited that Briana has agreed to hop on and to share some of the best practices that they've been working through at the University of Washington. Before I turn it over to Briana to introduce herself and to run the show, I have a few housekeeping notes. So first, the webinar is being recorded. And yes, we will send it out to everyone via email, probably tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. We will do some Q&A at the end. So after Briana has finished her presentation, we'll go through the question box, and I'll ask Briana the question. So do feel free to ask questions throughout. We'll just get to those at the end. And then please use the chat. It was fun to get things going right at the beginning, seeing where everyone is from. But certainly as you have ideas or thoughts, or just something that, maybe you all are doing something in your center related to the topic that you want to share, please do feel free to do so. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the star of the show. And Briana, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Ashley. My name is Briana Randall, and I am the Executive Director of the Career and Internship Center on the UW Seattle campus, and I use she, her pronouns. It was fun to see some familiar names pop up in chat. I've been in the center since 2004. I've been the director almost 3 years now, and was here when we launched UConnect about 6 years ago, but was not integrally involved in the launch of UConnect, but have been very involved with our website since becoming director 3 years ago. So that's a little bit about me, and we're going to see if I can get the slides to go forward. But a few disclaimers before we get started on this very important topic. I'm a white, cisgendered, able-bodied, financially secure female. So my lived experiences are different than a lot of the students that we're trying to serve, and that we'll talk about today. I am not an expert in DEI. I'm learning and trying and making progress, but I make mistakes. And I hope all of us can extend grace and compassion to one another in this session. Might not all use the right words, ask the right questions in the right way, but everybody on here, I assume, is really committed to DEI work. So I'll give you a little bit of context about our center and our university. We'll talk about how we built our digital pages for different identity communities. We'll talk about some of the stats and the outcomes, and then we'll talk about some resources at the end. I'm a big context person, but I will try to keep it brief. I'm learning. So the University of Washington Seattle campus, we have a hybrid career model. So I am in the centralized career center on a centralized building. This is actually our building right there. And we do have some graduate level career centers like law and MBA, and then we have a couple on the undergrad side as well. So business has their own career center with full capacity and services, and then engineering has a center, and they only have 3 staff, so it's not quite full. So we are hybrid in that they're centralized and college career centers. We are a big campus. There are almost 50,000 students. I know there are some bigger schools on this call, but we're pretty big. Of those, about 31,000 are undergrads. And even if you take out business and engineering, our center really serves about 24,000 undergrads. We also serve grad students, and we serve recent graduates up to 3 years. So I share those numbers because we have a lot of students and we don't have very many staff. So we had 14 to 15 prior to COVID. We lost a couple positions as a result of COVID, not from state cuts, just, you know, career centers generate revenue from employers, and employers are living life a little differently. So we're being conservative and not hiring behind a couple of salary lines. And then we have lots of babies going on right now. I have 2 people out on leave right now. One just decided to not come back, so we're running a search. And when the other one comes back, somebody else will go out on leave. So now more than ever, we really do need to scale. So how we're arranged is we have I call it the connections team. It's employer and community connections. Used to be called employer relations, that sort of team. Right now there's 3, but normally we have 4 to 5. We have a coaching team, so there's 4 coaches plus their leader. And then there's operations, me, somebody at the front desk, and an admin who helps a lot of the units with budgets and stuff. So there's not very many of us. That's how we're organized. And so finding ways to scale our impact is incredibly important, because as much as we would like to run a program for all the different groups or meet all the students one-on-one, it just isn't possible. And so instead of just fighting uphill against that, we needed to find some different ways to have an impact. So in our center, we don't say DEI, and I know there's other acronyms. One of our colleges uses JEDI. We use IDEA, which to us is inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. Because I think in our work, we're really trying to help a wider variety of students have access to our services and to mentors and to alum who have stories to tell. So access is a big part of our work, which is why we added it to the acronym. And then we have 4 core drivers of our work, and this is one of them. And we've labeled it equity for short, and also because the other ones start with E. We strive to provide equitable access to career building experiences and inclusive postgraduate opportunities, because we want to help dismantle inequitable career and earnings strategies. So this is a little bit about sort of our grounding and our foundation around DEI or IDEA work. I'd say 3 or 4 years ago, we started to define some goals around IDEA work, and then losing track of time, we'll blame it on the pandemic. And then 3 years ago, maybe we started to refine those and readjust, and it's a constant sort of relooking and redefining. And but I wanted to run through our 10 goals because our digital approach meets a lot of these goals. So one of them is outreach and presence, right? We just want our name to be a lot of different places, so a lot of different kind of students could know that we exist. We really want there to be representation and acknowledgement. For example, on our website, we'll get to that. Professional development. So we want to make sure that as a staff, we are knowledgeable, and that if students are brave enough to come to the Career and Internship Center and see us, that we are able to provide care and support that is culturally responsive and compassionate. Data and assessment. That's one really great part of having a UConnect platform, is there's so much data available that helps us tweak what we do, and we'll talk about that. And also partner engagement. You know, sometimes it can be hard to get students of any kind to events. And so we really want to make sure that if we're trying new things or leading events, that we're really working in partnership with the offices on campus that already have good inroads to the types of students we're trying to reach. Those are our first 5. Then elevating and educating across campus. So we really want to be part of the dialogue, moving this type of work forward and listening to partners as well. So kind of a 2-directional conversation. And of course, we want to be developing educational resources for students. Connection opportunities kind of goes a little bit further than educational resources. So of course we want to have handouts and webinars and things, but we also really want to connect students to mentors and alumni and employers. And we want to focus more on getting those opportunities in front of diverse students. We also, probably about 6 years ago is when we led our first workshop. We did it in person for employers interested in hiring Huskies and learning best practices. 4 or 5 years ago, we moved those remote and we continue to do those virtually. So we have added to our employer education series topics around how do you recruit and retain students from diverse backgrounds. And then finally, inclusive staff hiring, both for our student employees and our staff. So those are our goals. It's a lot, but it's a way for us to think a little bit more broadly, because I think as educators and as helper types, we can tend to have this default. I want to do a program. I want to do a workshop. I want to do a panel, right? And there are lots of ways to reach different students beyond throwing a program. And so listing out our 10 goals has been helpful in us thinking about our idea work a little more broadly and more strategically. So a digital first approach really helps with representation and acknowledgement. So students can see themselves represented on our website, and also is a place for us to house educational resources. And it also really indirectly helps with outreach and presence. I'll talk about it later, but it's easier to get campus partner buy-in on promoting our services if they actually see some of these very distinct pages. It helps us be constantly learning, which is really important. And it helps us, I think, a goal is if staff or if prospective staff and student employees see our commitment visually on our website to DEI, that would maybe make a different group of people apply to come work on our center. And then also, like I mentioned, UConnect really allows us to collect a lot of data. So this digital first approach really helps with a lot of the individual goals that we have around the idea space. So that's a little bit of context. Then I'm gonna tell you a little bit about our evolution and show you some of our pages, although some of you may have already pulled them up. So prior to 2015, we did not have UConnect. We did have sort of a regular website, and we were able to manage it with our staff, which meant it was pretty basic because it had to be if regular people are updating it. And so we did have a diversity resource page, and it was a long sort of bulleted list of hyperlinks for different groups. So it was there, wasn't super obvious, and definitely was not glamorous. Probably did not send, a really big signal that we're committed to this work. It was a signal in the right direction, but not much to write home about. When we partnered with UConnect, we had a giant resource library, and we did have some tags or some labels in there to showcase whether a resource was for different groups of students. So again, moving a little closer. And then in 2019, we got feedback that the resources were hard to find, even once we got on UConnect. And plus, we really did want to make our support more visible to students. We didn't want them to have to search really hard and click a lot of things to find what they need. And a sub bullet between here and here is that in summer/fall of 2019, we launched our interest pages, and then those went well. And once we got them up and running, we started working on our identity pages. Let's see if I can get this to pull up, and I'll assume it's still sharing unless I hear otherwise. So this is our main website. And if you click on interest and identity resources, you can see that they all pull down. So
Hey,
you
Briana.
can, yeah.
So sorry to interrupt. We, I believe, can still see your deck.
Interesting. Okay, let me try again. It's the dangers with.
Yes, always just how it goes, doing screen share and Zoom. We're all used to that for sure.
Okay, so it's better.
Yes, we now see your homepage.
Okay.
The MZ logo. Yep.
Okay. So this is our web page, and we have interest and identity resources, and you can see all the drop downs. You can also click on it and have a way to link to all of them. We have 8, which, you know, I'd like more. These aren't the only groups we care about, and some of these should be more subdivided. But 8 felt reasonable. We felt like we would find enough resources and be able to keep them fresh with content. And I had looked around, well, we'll talk about curating content in a bit, but this is the 8 that we have. And I'll show you a couple of them as an example. So this is our students of color page. And then because they're set up as channels, you can add various widgets to them and then have anchor links. So these are the different sections that we have on this page in this main column. So they all start with some kind of intro. And then 4 of the pages have blogs. We were able to bring in LinkedIn learning content. So that's what featured classes are. We highlight some students who recently graduated and have been willing to share some advice. And we ask them which interests and identity pages they would feel comfortable being on. We do have a section for some of the programs we have run so that it feels like they can live on and reach more students and perhaps come to the physical event. We do have an integration with Anthology, which runs our registered student organization database. And so it pulls in different student orgs here on campus. And then featured resources, some of these are handouts. This goes along with one of those recorded webinars. And some of them are outside vendors that we have vetted and made into a tile. We do have a few things on this other column. Students can sign up for our website and indicate different topics and different interest communities and different identity communities that they want to receive daily or weekly or monthly alerts on. So that's what follow means. And then on each of the pages, we added related centers that we really wanted students to know about. Probably they already know about these, but we, in case they didn't, we wanted them to know about those. And our LGBTQ site is very similar. So just to give you a sense of this one also, we were able to pull in, this is a video from Candid Career. And these are some different bite-sized webinar chunks that we recorded for students. So each of our pages is a little different, but there are some similarities among them as well. Okay, I'm gonna try to pull up the deck and we'll see what happens. Okay, hold on. We're gonna share again. Okay. Ashley, are we all good? Can you see the PowerPoint again?
Yep, you are great. You're back.
Perfect. All right, so this warning here, these next few slides are not going to be super elegant. They might even be boring, but The point is to really show you how you can start small and divide up the work and build incrementally. Because I will tell you that when we started thinking about building interest pages and identity pages, it felt really big. A big shift in how we do our website, how much our staff need to contribute to it. A little bit of me like having imposter syndrome, like, how do we know that we're putting resources up there and giving advice that's really great? I mean, it just felt big. And so for those of you who are looking to enhance your digital resources, I just kind of wanted to show you how we went about it, because the sites that I just showed you, those did not happen overnight at all. So, we discussed how many pages we would have and how to label them. I looked at other schools and we kind of made some decisions, but there's not a perfect way to do it. Then we had a member from our connections team and a member from our coaching team work together on different pages so that it would have both elements. So it was a cross-functional collaboration within our office. We also ran our first drafts by the identity offices on campus that serve those students to get feedback and resources. And then when we launched the pages originally, all they had was the little intro paragraph and a few resources. That was it. And I purposely didn't want tons of resources. I really wanted just a few that were high quality. And so there wasn't much on the pages when we launched. And then right after we launched them, the pandemic happened. And so it took us a while to actually get beyond that. So that little graphic says, don't overthink it. I shared a little bit about that. I was overthinking it and over feeling it, I think too, feeling overwhelmed. We looked at other Career Center pages, especially other UConnect pages, because some of them already had channels, but all different kinds of Career Center pages. We really thought about the conversations that we have with students. What are they looking for when they view our website or come to us and ask questions? Then we really did some Googling and dove fairly deeply. So some of the resources that were on our site previously, it made it look like we had a lot of them, but when you dug into some of them, they didn't really have opportunities that our college students would be interested in coming out of a bachelor's degree, or that geographically, we know most of our students stay in Washington. So we didn't want a site that just had positions in a random city somewhere else, just knowing that our students probably won't go there. So we really chose to dive deeply to make sure that we really thought the site was a good fit for our students, which took some time. And then again, we asked campus partners. So after we launched with just an intro and a few resources, we did some more work last year after we got our feet under us remotely. We added some candid career videos. There aren't a lot in Candid Career that are specific to identities, but we were able to find some and we integrated those. We added our recorded webinars, the box with our campus centers, and a few student organizations that we did manually. So we looked through our hundreds and hundreds of student organizations, found the ones that we wanted to highlight, and then put them on our site manually. We didn't have the anthology integration at that point, couldn't afford it. So we just did it manually. We also experimented a lot with what to call like interest and identity resources and what it looked like when you hovered over that and the drop-down menu came. We really were trying to drive traffic to this area. And so we just experimented with what we thought would work to do that. And then we started doing some light marketing of these pages. Before that, we really hadn't pushed these out because they weren't super developed, and the pandemic, lots of people had lots of things on their mind. Much of this section was done by myself and the leadership and our team. So, staff members cross-functionally created the pages to begin with. And then I filled in behind with a lot of the other widgets and resources. So it's really been a truly a full center contribution. Here's an example of a web banner. We don't have marketing people, just like we don't have tech people. So we just throw things together in Canva. And so this is a web banner that can get put in circulation on the front page of our website. What we've added so far in this school year, we went ahead and activated blogs on 4 of our pages. and our coaches run those. And so when we hire a career coach, they know they're going to need to blog for 2 interest areas and 1 identity area. The reason we chose 4 is because they were the pages that we thought we would have enough content, enough resources to keep the blog active and dynamic, because I am really a strong proponent that if you're going to have a blog, it's got to be updated a lot. And so we felt that we could do that on 4, and it felt pretty easy. So that's what we started with. And we might blog on the others eventually, but this is what we have right now. We added the integration with the anthology, LinkedIn learning courses, student stories and advice. That section, there is a people component. I find the stories and write the stories, but then there is a widget that makes it really easy to put the stories in a really beautiful people format on our pages. And then just hot off the press a few days ago, to our international students page, we added a job feed from Handshake, and it specifically is on the filter accepts OPT, CPT, or willing to sponsor. So we don't have jobs feed on all of our pages, but this one was a little bit easier to do because of how positions are posted in Handshake. The other thing we started doing more this year is trying to really utilize the email functionality in UConnect. So subscribers can subscribe for daily, weekly, or monthly alerts based on their preferences. But also with a few clicks, I can send a custom email such as this one to people who have subscribed to one specific thing. So when we got the stories on a few of our identity pages, I push those out to subscribers, for example. Now we can do that. We do that for interest, like our nonprofit mentorship program. We were able to push out specifically to people who have subscribed to the nonprofit social justice and education page. So that's always been there, but we're just now experimenting with it. And then we're also starting to be more intentional. We have great partners in the office across the commons from us that serves first-gen low-income students. They have a weekly newsletter, and for about the last year, we've been kind of haphazardly sending them stuff to put in it, but this quarter we've been sending them something every week, whether it's an event or part of our website or whatnot. Whew. Okay, so I do like numbers, and UConnect has lots of numbers, which is great. And I'll just put it out there. Okay, so for calendar year 2020, we had 235,000 users look at our website. And then in 2021, we jumped up to nearly 400,000, which was 66% growth. And so as we have put more effort into our website and made it more appealing, the users have followed, which has been lovely to see, because you hope that all of your hard work pays off, and it really has. When we look at the page views of specific identity pages, our international student page had 120% increase from 2020 to 2021. Students of color 161%, and the LGBTQ page 294%. So we've seen really big growth in these as we've built them out and as we've promoted them more and as they've been more attractive to those who come to them. And then overall, all of our identity pages, we've seen a 159% increase from year to year, which is fabulous. It's a little bit intimidating to say these because I know we can't, well, I guess I could be wrong. I don't think we can have this much increase every year. So, but it's been fun to see from 2020 to 2021, and it'll be interesting to see what we're able to do with 2022. Like I said, people can subscribe to pages, and we have 822 students, and a lot undergrads, grad students, and alums is what I filtered for, and there's 822. Some are subscribed to just one, some 2 or 3, and some are to all of them. There's a little bit of everything in the subscribers. And then those custom emails that we've been sending. So the depressing thing is that the average for higher ed newsletters is about 3% click rate. So I'm sorry for those of you who might think more people click into your newsletters. It's so sobering. We do another newsletter, not in UConnect, and our open rate is really high. Our click rate also is not super great. But anyway, for higher end newsletters, the news is not great. But for our UConnect subscriber email, so when people have chosen to go into our website, they've chosen the things they're interested in, they've chosen the cadence at which they want alerts, we have a 7.5% click rate. So they're actually opening it and clicking on something. And then specifically, we've done 2 for identity pages. So we did one for students of color and one for LGBTQ when we got those stories up, because those are the pages that had a sufficient amount of stories for me to want to market. And we got a 9% open click rate for students of color and 11% for LGBTQ. So it's been exciting to see that this could be a way to reach more students and get more resources in front of relevant students. Stats are great, but they don't show everything. So I wanted to do some other outcomes. So for students, really the benefit is that these resources are available 24/7, 365. I know from the back end on Google Analytics that we have a lot of users looking at our site when we are not open. And so it's just a wonderful way to serve students and also not students, you know, people in the community who think UW should be taking appointments with them. They see our website and it's helpful for them. So because it's available all the time, having a digital first approach to serving diverse student populations is inherently more accessible and equitable. This is one of the things that makes me the most excited, is that more students have access to not only the resources, but also the expertise of our coaches, right? They can watch a recorded webinar in full. They can watch a 30-second part of a recorded webinar on a very specific topic. So the expertise of our coaches is able to get to more students than would ever be able to come in, based on students don't have the availability or time, and we just don't have the bandwidth. This also helps our small team scale our reach. And because of the different widgets that are part of the UConnect platform, we're able to offer resources that meet a lot of different learning styles. So whether it's written word or long videos, short videos, podcast, lots of different learning styles, which I like. And then Tala, who I work with at UConnect, she reminded me of this quote. So one thing that I'll tell you is, before I share the quote, we were successful last year in getting the UW student technology fee to fund our platform. So we already had our platform and we were paying for it. But the student tech fee committee had funded LinkedIn Learning for our campus. And I thought, let's ask them if they'll fund our UConnect contract. And they did. And then this coming Monday, I present to them to get them to fund it again. And so as part of that proposal process, you collect endorsements from whoever you want on the STF website. And this is what one student wrote. And I'm just going to stop a minute and let you read that. I think that's pretty powerful. Also, this is our digital first approach through UConnect has been really helpful with our partners. So we were already reaching out to partners and saying, you know, hey, would you be willing to send this notification about something to your students? Or would you put us on your website? You know, we were already very collaborative and reaching out to partners a lot. But now we have more of a hook, right? Now we're like, could you link to this specific page? Or we think your students would be interested in this specific resource. And so it's been really helpful in our partnership work. And our campus partners see our commitment, which I think is important as well. So we run a series called Elevating Careers, where we talk to advisors and faculty, mostly advisors. And we hosted one called Supporting the Career Development of Students with Diverse Identities. And these were a couple quotes from people who attended. This was after we had done a bunch of our improvements last year. be exciting to see what they would think this year if they've been back to our pages. And then I'm going to wrap up here soon, and so we can take some questions. I do want to say there's been benefits for our team as well. I would say all of us are certainly more knowledgeable about these 8 areas than we were, especially the ones where we're continually blogging. We're just exposed to a lot of resources, and it keeps DEI top of mind by default, which also helps us provide better services. And we really feel proud of these pages. All of us are committed to our 10 idea goals. And I think in career services work, it can often feel like the coaches or counselors do their thing and the employer relations people do their thing. And in a lot of ways, the roles are distinct. But I think as a staff, we all feel really proud of these pages as a collective effort. All right, so we've covered a lot of different ground. This is Dubs. He's our live mascot. So I've listed here our general website, which is just careers.uw, and then the Find Your Community page that I showed you. My email address, you're welcome to reach out, and I'll do the best I can to get back to you. And then if you're interested, of course, I do highly recommend using UConnect as a web platform. Mostly, well, I wouldn't even say mostly. One of the things that's beneficial for most schools is schools often have marketing and branding guidelines and staff. And sometimes websites can be really hard to update. They take people to do the things, right? And I can go into the back end and do a lot of things to my website to keep it real and dynamic, because the world of work was changing rapidly before COVID. And so having a website that you can change really whenever you want is so valuable and is so restricted at a lot of universities. All right, so that is the end of my prepared remarks. Ashley's going to come back on and I'll see what she has for me.
I am back, and I just want to say, Briana, that was fantastic. Thank you. So many, I just appreciate the very tactical advice that you're giving. I think it's easy to speak about things at a really high level and everyone can, generally agree and get on board. But, the starting small, crawling before you walk, before you run type of sentiment, I think is super critical, and just starting somewhere. So that was fantastic. Thank you. We do have some questions, but before I forget, I do want to just launch a quick poll to, if you would like to learn more about UConnect or just how to leverage or leveraging curated communities, please feel free to answer yes or no or ignore altogether. That's totally fine as well. I'm going to leave this up here just for a second, and I'll throw Briana her first question. Someone said they really appreciated your thoughts about the visibility of these resources and communities and just how it impacts your ability to recruit a more dynamic and diverse staff. Have you seen any impact on your team makeup since launching the communities, or just any anecdotal feedback from candidates in particular?
I would say I don't know that there's been a dramatic effect on the pool that we get. But it's been interesting to see the comments that our candidates make, not just about this, but we've gotten more transparent about who we are, what our core drivers are. So on the About Us section of our website, now we have kind of mission and vision, but it's what we do and how we do it. Right, what we're about as a staff, and equity work is featured prominently there. And we actually put the link to that specific resource in our job ads now. So it's sort of a way to drive visibility to this is what we're about. And if you are also like this, then you could probably get on board with who we are. So I don't know that it's dramatically impacted the pool, but we've gotten comments, appreciative comments about transparency and our efforts along the equity line from our candidates.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think along a similar thread here, you've shared how it's becoming a part of your team's work, right? The part of their workflow. How did you go about getting your team's buy-in to work on these pages and curate content?
Yeah. So in order to answer that, I need to go back a step. So, our first foray into this type of page was to do interest pages. And so we did that about 6 months before we did identity pages. And that was a little bit more of a shift for our team in terms of, in addition to meeting with students, we really need you to be writing blogs weekly. I need you to help me sort through the vendors that come to me, lots of vendors. Yeah. Right. And so that was a little bit of a shift. So I think we went through some growing pains with that. And there was some turnover, not just because of this, but there are people who would really prefer to see students 8 hours a day. And needing to also incorporate a digital first approach to some of our work isn't everybody's cup of tea, right? So we did that, went through that, and then we launched the identity pages. And I don't think it was hard at all for our team to get on board with that. People volunteered to help curate the content. It wasn't like, okay, I need volunteers for this, and it was crickets. Like, everybody jumped in, everybody was willing to do it. We are a staff that is just really committed to idea work. So it didn't take a lot of wiggle room. And I think I was a little bit of a holdout, I will admit. I think we could have probably activated our blogs on our identity pages a little bit sooner. I think there was the willingness on our team. I just was really scared that we were going to activate them and we would have 2 weeks worth of blogs and then we would have nothing left to post, and I didn't want to do that. So I actually think in some ways our staff was more eager and willing than I was, and then they finally convinced me to activate the 4 blogs this past summer.
Oh, I love it. That's great. Yeah. Again, I feel like some of these questions are flowing right into one another. Someone's asking, how much time do you spend a week updating, curating, and sharing content with students and campus partners? They also wanted to say, this is amazing and thank you.
Thank you. And Ashley, before I answer that, would you like me to stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, let's do that. Good call.
Okay, then I'm big on the screen, which is
also
awesome.
Now we can see the nice background.
Okay. Okay, so it varies widely based on who you are in the office. Everybody contributes to the website. It's fun to see a weekly, like, who on our team, who of the admins on our team have been active, and it's basically everybody. The coaches actually block out time, at least an hour a week, to find content for their blogs to make sure that it doesn't go by the wayside. Then I think there's other times through the week when they do that as well. Like, I sent one to somebody today. I'm like, can you take a look at this? And if it makes sense, can you put it on your blog? And I'm going to delete it. You can look at it, be the decision maker, and decide what to do with it. And so things kind of flow throughout. So the coaches block an hour to do blog work. We expect 1 blog per week for each page, but they get more than that on there. There's a lot of content. I go through phases where I spend honestly lots of hours on the week working on the website. And I also spend weeks when I don't think about our website much, right? And so that can be pretty flexible. Or you spend, like, when we first created them, we had about a month where it's like, we're really going to try to push on this. And I need the pairs who are working on things to make meetings and get Google Drives. So you can, there's lots of different ways you can handle it. Mine's a little more cyclical. The coaches is scheduled. When we launched, it was like a big push within a month.
Right.
So hopefully that helps a little bit. It's hard to quantify.
Yeah, of course. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Can you speak to maybe the breakdown or how you all approach this. There was a question asking if your coaches are writing their own blog posts, or are you using some of the UConnect feeds or curated content, or perhaps a mixture of both?
Yeah, both. And also what I have tried to, because like I said, we don't have a lot of staff members. We have a big mission and a big student body.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want people to feel scared about writing blogs, right? A blog can be, you had an inspirational thought and you want to share that, fine. That might take a little more time for you to craft. It could be an event you heard about, a student org you heard about. It can just be you pushing out something you saw. It can also be using content from the back end of UConnect. All of it counts. I don't really care.
Yeah. Great. Another question, have you seen a reduction in the number of student appointments since shifting to a digital first model? Are there goals that you try to reach for how many students your coaches meet with face-to-face or via Zoom each week? And is it still a priority to also offer live coaching?
That question is really hard to answer given the times we're living in. Right when we launched these, the pandemic hit, and numbers are just hard to make sense out of. I will say, prior to the pandemic and prior to our interest in identity pages, and also we did some work on our career development pages, we call them DIY resources. So there's a lot more content in the past 2 years beyond our identity. But we were often booking out for coaching appointments further out with more coaches than we are now. So I think perhaps students are able to get what they need more often from our website, or they're able to come in having looked at some stuff and the appointments are a little bit meatier, right? They might have a better sense of their questions or a little bit more fine-tuned questions. We don't have specific goals for how many students coaches meet with. We do track it, just to see trends. We don't base evaluations on it, but we don't envision getting rid of the coaching appointments because I think that's really valuable in the personal connection.
Yeah,
students crave that and need that, and we're happy to provide that. This is an add-on.
Yeah, absolutely. There were a couple of questions related to kind of the analytics. So I just wanted to, I'm going to kind of put them into one. Let's see, someone asked, who monitors the analytics to see how the website is performing? And then maybe like speaking to, are the analytics that you pulled, are you getting those via the UConnect platform or in a different way?
Great question. So every UConnect school has, I don't know what they're called, but a success lead who works specifically with them. And I've worked with Tala for a long time, and she is great and has been able to help me figure out how to find the numbers.
Tala is great. I can attest to that. Shout out to Tala.
Yeah. And so I do two things. I can get a lot of them from the back end of UConnect. So we have a really extensive admin portal where I can see lots of things in that, like how many subscribers we have and who's clicking on what. Then I also use Google Analytics to find a lot of things, and UConnect can help get that set up and help you figure out how to read it, because there's lots of things in Google Analytics, and I have a feeling I know like 20% of it. I personally do a lot of this work. So I will say they're really, for UConnect schools, well, really even not UConnect schools, but there really needs to be somebody who is sort of point person on the website, on the totality of it, on the architecture of it, on looking at what's working and what's not, right? Some of you might be lucky and have a marketing or a web person. We're not one of them. And so that falls to me. But a lot of people can do a lot of things on the back end of UConnect. So we have different people sending subscriber emails about events. It's not just me, but I do a lot of the analytics.
Yeah. Can you speak to, this is my own follow-up question. I think one of the things, of course, I find this really useful, but, you're with the integrations, you're also, hopefully seeing an increase in usage of your other platforms that your team is investing in. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I would say that is true. I'm due to look at all of those. I looked at all of our platform engagements last March, but it was astounding the percent growth. So when we started embedding candid career videos into our website, rather than just having a random resource tile that said candid career that
Right.
people had to find, now they're embedded in a lot of different pages of our website. Yes, so I would say it has helped increase usage of a lot of the things that we're paying for, which is super important to me, because if I'm paying for something, I want it to get used.
Right. And you want to be able to know and to see and to be able to report on that. So the analytics part is super key. We have time for just maybe a few more questions. Do you have suggestions for collaborating with a central DEI office or other such identity-based resources on campus?
I will say be patient and be persistent. Patiently persistent. So the reality is that, people who work in quote unquote diversity offices or disability offices, all of those people have really big jobs, lots of students, often with complex needs, and a lot of people who want their attention, right? And so I will be honest and say sometimes emails don't get responded to, right? And it's being patient, maybe finding the right person or the right approach. And I will say, for example, one partner that we've just been having a hard time connecting with, we just had this beautiful moment where the right person at the right time found out that we were trying to connect, and now we're connected. And it's been something we've been trying to do for a while. So patience and persistence, and also having something visible and tangible that shows commitment. And so this isn't like, hey, we kind of care about this. Can you help us promote our stuff? When they see a little bit more meat behind the commitment, I think that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly, along the similar lines, have you found success or have you started to use the platform as a way to engage with faculty at all?
Yes, we actually have a page geared towards faculty that, and couple things. I laugh because we are at a very big school, very research focused. Cracking the faculty nut can be a little more challenging. And so it's not our strong suit, I will say.
Sure.
But I did convene a group of faculty over the summer. I think it was 2020. And they were blown away by the helpfulness of our website. I know we have faculty we have an intro video to our website. We have that being shown in some classes as just a way to introduce students to our center. We have a couple of pages. So in addition, most of our website is student facing. Okay. We also have employer facing pages. We also have a channel specifically for advisors and faculty. And on that page, they can sign up for a handshake account. They can register for the Elevated Careers workshops that we do. They can find information about managing internship courses. And we have subscribers to those pages. And we do have pretty good engagement in our Elevating Careers resources. I will say it is mostly advisors, but faculty are in our sites.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I asked that mostly because we know, I think faculty are a natural choice for students to turn to with, questions about career. And I just love the idea of at least they have a resource that they know about they can go to help kind of facilitate those conversations.
Yeah.
last question, and we'll keep it light, and then we'll let you have maybe 30 seconds before you probably have your next meeting. Any like anecdotal feedback from students so far? You shared the quote, which was fantastic, but I think specifically related to your identity pages.
I would say getting feedback has not been a strong suit of ours, but we just recently conducted a focus group, and the students mostly were sad they hadn't known about the site sooner. So they did think everything was really awesome, and they said they never heard about it. I'm like, we send you a newsletter every week. So I do know that when they go there, they really like it.
Sure.
And we are getting lots of people clicking on it when we send subscriber alerts about specific things. So I do know the interest is there, which is really exciting.
Yeah. And you're totally right. Getting the exposure and getting people, leading them there is oftentimes the biggest battle. So
exactly.
Okay, we will wrap up. If we didn't get to your question, we'll reach back out, but everyone, please feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions or want to learn more. But Briana, I can't thank you enough. That was absolutely fantastic. And I just want to say that we are so grateful to have such a great partner in you and your fantastic team. So many thanks to you. Enjoy the rest of your week. Hope everyone has a good one. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.